Hello, and here's a quick video on understanding Polybius cipher and how it was used during Cipher Hunt. So this clue here was actually not only the first clue that we were given, but we were told at the very end of the puzzle to go back to this image because there's something else here that we need. Specifically, it said, "Return to where it all began. The final clue is in your hand. The parchment can be such a tease. The answer is written in the trees." So looking at this, you might be thinking, like, how the heck are we supposed to get a code from these trees? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Well, we were confused, so Alex, a few days later, had to give us a clue where he said, "An urban legend arcade game gives the method's correct name. Mathematically, the letters hide in branches and knots, no matter the side." People were quick to know that this was Polybius. So this is a Polybius cipher grid, and it's basically just a 5x5 grid that you fill in with letters of the alphabet. There are some cases, which might be the case for Cheshire's image, if it has Polybius cipher in it, where instead of putting two letters in one square here, they'll just omit one letter. And in the Cheshire image, you'll see that it says no Y. So what I'm thinking is it's probably just going to omit the letter Y. Here's a quick example of a Polybius code. So looking at the code, the first digit represents the row that the letter is in, and the second digit represents the column that the letter is in. Moving on to 15, again, you go the first row, 1, and the fifth column, E. And you'll notice that we actually have two 15s in this code. So we can put the letter E here and here. And, if you continue all the way down the line, you'll end up with Hey Dipper. So how was Polybius used in Cipher Hunt? And specifically, how was it used in these trees? Well, we know we need to have groups of 5 somehow. Somehow we have to create numbers from 11 to 55 using these branches. So how do we do that? Well, if you take a look here, you'll actually notice there are 5 different types of branches. There's this one, which is a branch facing downwards. This one, which is a branch facing upwards. This one, which is a branch facing downwards that has another branch sticking off of it. This one that is a branch facing upwards that has a branch sticking out of it. And then also there's some trees that will have knots. So I went ahead and created this little guide where we just assign a value to each one of these things. So I put 1 for up branch, 2 for downwards facing branch, 3 for the branch facing up with a stick, 4 for the branch sticking down with a stick, and then 5 for the tree with the knot. So how do we go about actually grouping these branches together? So we're going to read this as if it's a book, as in we're going to read it top to bottom and left to right. So starting with the leftmost tree and the topmost branch, we'll move down to the next branch in this tree. So it's a downwards facing branch to a downwards facing branch with a stick. On the next tree, we will have this upward facing branch with a branch sticking out of it to the knot. And, we keep continuing this pattern. So in this one, this is the last branch in this tree. So we're just going to move from this upwards facing branch to the knot that's at the top of the next tree. And you have to do this for every single one. But then we can go ahead and get our guide and start assigning the values to them. So this downwards facing branch here is where we're going to start. This is associated with the number 2, and of course it's connected to a downwards facing branch with the branch sticking out of it, which is 4. So you put those together and you get 24. Same with this here now. We have the outwards facing branch with a stick facing off of it, so it's a 3, and it connects to a knot, so it's 5. And we're going to continue the same pattern all the way through, and we end up with this sequence here. So now we take this back to our grid and we start filling it in. So if we look at our first number, we have 24. So of course we go to the second row and the fourth column. And we get this, and we can apply this to every time the number 24 appears in our sequence. And like before, we're just going to continue. So 35 is 3 and 5 is the letter P, so this would be P and P here as well. Once you fill it in, you'll notice this though, right? This doesn't look like it can be anything. But the thing is, there are so many possible combinations for what this upward facing branch could be. This could be 2, this could be 5, this could be 4, this could be 3, right? This could be all the numbers. There's just way too many possible combinations. So what if I told you that actually during Cipher Hunt, they didn't even figure out the correct sequence? What if I told you they didn't even use the Polybius grid at all? So the method they did was substitution cipher. So we can just look at these numbers as if they're their own value and assign a random letter to each one. So just for simplicity, I'm going to use X, Y, Z, A, B, C, that kind of thing. So of course, starting with 24, we can apply X to each of these numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of these numbers here, just assigning random values to each one. And you'll see here, right, there's 235, so these have to be the same letter. Because this was the last stage of Cipher Hunt, we knew that this was a place somewhere in Oregon. So looking at this code, we knew it was going to be something like city, comma, state. So if you look here, I put this little comma here because this is where the state's going to go. And we know that the code for the Oregon state is OR. So we'll fill this in with O and R. But then we also have a C here, we have an X here and here, right? So we can fill that in as well. And now because we have this double letter right here, we know this next letter has to be a vowel. And of course, since we're using the letter O, and since RAA wouldn't make sense, RII wouldn't make sense, RUU wouldn't make sense, or Y, the only possible answer could be the letter E. So this is what we have now, REE, we don't know these letters, OR, and then Oregon. So this is actually enough information for us, because if we look at a list of cities in Oregon, we could see that Reedsport was the only one that could fit. So how can we use our new knowledge of Polybius cipher for the Book of Bill? Looking at some of these images in Bill's wallpapers, we're starting to notice some patterns. For example, one that was noticed is, out of all these bills, some of them will have this bottom eyelid, some of them won't have a bottom eyelid at all, some of them are facing backwards, some of them are holding something, and then some of them are holding nothing. So if we assign 2 of these to each one, for example, this one is holding something and he has a bottom eyelid. So we can use the numbers 1 for bottom eyelid and the number 4 for holding something. And if we continue this pattern, we end up with 14, 13, 15, 24, 24, 25, 14, 34. And now using this, we can actually start to assign, again, letter values to each letter here. I used a website called Quip, and you can actually put substitution ciphers in there and it'll spit out every single possible combination. So a few of these could be something to look at, like smallest could be a word in a puzzle. Slimmest as well. Obviously a lot of these are kind of outlandish. They might be a little bit far off, but it's definitely something to try at this point. Until we get a hint, this is kind of our best bet.